Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Fight fans worldwide, you've tuned into the #1 undisputed boxing podcast today. This is the Boxing Breakdown. Now, your heavy-handed, hard-hitting host, Mark Roxy.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of the Boxing Breakdown. I am your host, Mark Roxy, and I am here with my partner in crime, Mr. Harold Hunt. What's up, brother?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Welcome back today. It's a glorious day. We got some much-needed rain, and I'm excited about that. Harold, I just wanted to take a moment to welcome the guests. So for those of you that are tuning into the Boxing Breakdown this evening, thank you very much for being with us. I am Mark Roxy. I am your host, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Mr. Harold Hunt. And you can find us, by the way, live on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And do not forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. And I think we're also on LinkedIn as well. But, Facebook and Instagram are big ones. So you can find us at The Boxing Breakdown. And here we go, my friends. Buckle it up, buckle it up, buckle it up. Because today we are going to talk about Canelo Alvarez versus Charlo. We're going to break that fight down a little bit and hopefully pump you guys up and get you excited about the upcoming fight. We're going to also explore this Frank Martin and him supposedly and allegedly pulling out of the Stevenson matchup. So we'll get into that, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Spence and Crawford rematch. I think that we got some news on that as well. As you can see, Spence exercises that rematch clause. And then finally, we will get into Benn and his outstanding performance, as well as Bomack's arrest. He apparently was arrested, and Harold's got a bunch of news on that. So without further ado, my friends, let's get into this, Harold. What you got, brother? Let's talk about this Canelo Alvarez versus Charlo fight.
As everyone knows, Canelo is going to be fighting Charlo, the younger Charlo. And right now, they're really being very gracious toward each other at the press conferences and their comments off of camera. We're used to Charlo being kind of belligerent and arrogant, but his tone this time is completely different from before. I'm seeing that he's thinking that he can beat Canelo, and all that other bravado is not really needed. Canelo, on the other hand, he feels like this is his chance to really show the world that he is the best fighter, because in light of all the fights that's happened so far, the Crawford Spence fight, the other fight with Tank and Ryan, the Usyk fight, he wants to prove that he is still the best available. So he's going to be really focused to really fight well, and Charlo is too. Now, if you saw the press conference, you notice that Charlo is taller, but he's not as wide. The main thing I'm pulling from this right now is that Charlo feels that once he beats Canelo, he's going to move back down and entertain Bud Crawford. And right now, his comments are really toward Crawford right now. And I believe that, mostly it should be about his fight with Canelo. So Crawford seems to be in his head some right now, and I wouldn't entertain that. I wouldn't even have any kind of talk about that. Yeah. But it is business because business dictates that either way, if he loses or wins, he may have a chance to fight Crawford. So I have to give that to him.
Yeah, I
So
mean, he came out. Canelo Alvarez did come out recently stating that he felt that Crawford was a very good fighter. He has stated that on a multiple interviews, but he also said that he's only won one big fight. He's really only got one, big fight against Errol Spence, and there's not much more on his resume. So, what do you think about those comments?
well, he should say that. He looks at his own resume and see he's had huge fights over the years.
Right.
So all of those fights really qualify him to be where he's at right now. Yes, Crawford has had just one fight that the world really knew about. But if you throw out the names of the fighters, their popularity, and look at their skill level, I feel both of their resumes are on par. Because
Yeah.
Crawford did fight some really good fighters. They just didn't have name value and seat value and that type of thing. But they were really great fighters. He had to prove himself and fight quite well.
Yeah.
Canelo had the great fighters, but they had cachet.
Yeah, so Harold, I'm going to pause just for a quick second here because what I'd like to do for our listeners is really remind them that this Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo is taking place on Showtime pay-per-view on September 30th at 8 p.m. Right? This is going to be a pretty big fight, and I have a feeling the pay-per-view numbers are going to be outstanding on this one. It hasn't quite heated up early on. Like, you normally see these kinds of fights heating up earlier, but I do think part of the reason is that, a lot of people are going back to school. The summer's kind of taking a back seat now. People are getting back into their routine. And so I think there's just like a little bit of lag time here, but I think this thing is going to pop off, right? So, I mean, this is a move that really is staged to make, it's going to basically set the world on fire as far as I'm concerned in terms of boxing. I want to see this fight. This fight has there's a lot riding on this fight for Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo. So whoever takes an L here, I think it's going to be a big step back. What do you think about that, Harold?
Canelo couldn't afford to lose a lot to lose,
Right.
only because he has such a huge situation going on with his career and his legacy that a
Mm,
loss for him won't even step him back. He lost to Bivol. We excuse that. And
right.
early in his career, when we lost to Floyd, we excuse that. And
Yeah.
if he loses here, he'll still be excused. So he understands that. As far as Charlo's concerned, he has opportunity to really make history. He'll be he'll be the undisputed at two weight classes, and he went up three classes to do it. So he has a lot to lot to gain. But if he loses, he doesn't really lose that much because the excuse will be he moved up.
Yeah.
He is actually out of his weight class. He's fighting Canelo and that type of thing. For
Yes.
me, both of those guys have kind of not. I'm not saying they dropped the ball, but the respect is rampant, and it's so the respect is so prevalent. It's kind of caused all of the press conferences to be kind of mundane because they've had the major press conferences in L.A. and New York, I believe, and it just didn't grab you as such. So maybe as we get closer, there'll be some back and forth.
Yeah.
Maybe Charlo's camp and Canelo's camp will get into some kind of beef and spice it up. But right now, it's pretty mundane.
Yeah. Well, folks, listen up. Canelo Alvarez is 59-2 with 2 draws. So 59 fights, 2 losses, 2 draws. Jermell Charlo is 35 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. So this is a very interesting fight. I believe it's for the IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO titles that are on the line. And this fight is going to be taking place as I said, September 30th. I'll say it again, September 30th. And it is also in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. So if you guys are out west and you want to see a really good fight, make sure you get those tickets. If you are close enough to get to the T-Mobile Arena, you won't be disappointed. And this program is going to be put on by Premier Boxing Champions and broadcasted live on Showtime, as I said before. Pay-per-view, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. So
let me interject. 168.
Yeah.
It's at 168.
Thank you, Harold. Yes, y'all. It is at 168. I declined to say that, and Harold's got my back. Always. Canelo Alvarez is 33 years old, man. You know? So,
yes.
I mean, we're not saying he's old. I mean, we're not going down that road again, right? We're not going down the road. Like,
we've had that back and forth. But at 168, he feels very comfortable there.
Right.
And to me, when he moved to 175 and lost, he was getting hit by a bigger man.
Right.
So to me, that's a situation where he may have the advantage. But Charlo is stating that in his training, he's fighting light heavyweights and this, that, and the other, and he's working that way. Now, Mark, as a trainer, I guess being sparring with a heavier man and all that is beneficial, but I don't know if it really translates in the actual fight with a bigger man. Your opinion?
Well, Harold, I mean, I think it depends on the circumstances. There are times where, for work, you want a heavier fighter. You can exercise on a heavier fighter. You can get your combinations off without the risk of getting hurt. So in sparring, you may get heavier fighters to come into camp because they can take a little bit more of the onslaught, and they're not going to be, come in one day and leave camp the next day because they've got a little bit more weight on them. So there sometimes that can help. I mean, I think in terms of developing a cache of fighters that come in, a team of fighters that come in to work with your fighter, it's nice to have an array of different sizes and muscular types. And I think the reason for that, Harold, is because, sometimes working fast is good, fast muscle twitch. Sometimes it's good to work slower and be more methodical with your skill sets. Maybe work a little bit more on your defense with the punches coming a little slower in areas and pockets where you're not really that good. So there's a lot of things that you can do with the size. And then, of course, when you have a smaller fighter and a faster fighter, a lot of times what you're going to get is you're going to get faster hand speed. You can get faster movement, faster reflexes. So if you're fighting a fighter that, if you're preparing for a fighter that is quicker than you may want to pick up the speed, right? So there's a lot there. And I really want to thank you for asking that question because I think it helps the listeners to really understand, what that's about, right?
True. So being both of those guys are utilizing that type of technique, the bigger man, the smaller man, to kind of work on different things that they're going to work on, they're going to use in the fight with each other. My overall feel is Charlo rather is just thinking about being focused and being in the opportunity that he can possibly win. And I don't think that, well, he has said it, he believes he can knock Canelo out. Now, I was watching a little bit of pieces of Canelo recently, and Jacobs hit him with his best left hook. I mean, turned his head all around while engagement.
Right.
And it was clean and it was right on the button and it was powerful. And Canelo didn't even flinch. He took that punch, his head snapped to the right, snapped right back, and he delivered a punch, didn't take a step back. He didn't wobble or anything. So now with Daniel Jacobs, who's a pretty heavy hitter, I believe, at that time, because he was still in his prime at that time, which he still is prime-ish, if you want to use that word. But at that time, he was definitely in the smack dab of his prime. He was hitting Canelo pretty heavily. Canelo has a great chin, Mark.
Not only you bring up a great point, Harold, because not only does Canelo have a great chin, but Jermell Charlo only has 19 knockouts in his 35 fights. So, I mean, I shouldn't say only because, he put 19 of them away with knockout, right? But, when you look at Canelo Alvarez's knockout ratio, he's got 39 of his knockouts, 39 of the 59 fights he's got have come by way of knockout. So, I mean, that's fairly, that's a lot of experience knocking folks out.
I disagree.
Tell me.
When Charlo got with his new trainer,
Yeah.
he became a knockout artist. If you look at the knockouts that he occurred after he moved trainers,
Yeah.
he was knocking them out left and right. And when he says, I'm a knockout artist, he is a knockout artist with his new trainer because the narrative was changed, the process was changed, the thought process was changed. So
Yeah.
in my mind, he is a knockout fighter.
Yeah.
Of course, his record's going to say such, but those were before he adapted this knockout mentality and procedure. So he is a knockout fighter, a
Yeah.
knockout puncher to me.
So Harold, I mean, that's a great point you bring up. And actually you may be 100% right about that. I mean, if you're looking at the percentages, if you're looking at percentages solely, Canelo Alvarez's knockout ratio is 66.1%, while Jermell Charlo's knockout ratio is 54.29%. So they are relatively close. Percentage-wise, if you're looking at it on paper, the knockout percentage is really not that far off. So to your and now I know that wasn't exactly what your point was, but as I delve into the knockout ratio there a little bit more, I can see, he hasn't had as many fights, but his ratio is close. It's 54%. So, I guess what I'm saying is these guys, Eddie Reynoso, who is a very, very skillful trainer, one of the best, and will go down in the Hall of Fame, no doubt, as one of the most masterful trainers of our era. He's very, very excited about this fight. He believes that he's fighting, that he's putting his fighter in with a truly, amazing fighter. And that this is going to really be a test for Canelo Alvarez. But see, everything is not always what it seems in boxing. I look at this fight and I think this is a perfect style matchup for Canelo Alvarez for a lot of tactical reasons. I see that this guy is made for Canelo Alvarez. And so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. I've been wrong 50% of the time. So, right? I mean,
nobody has a good record. For me, Bivol, which is a name that may not be mentioned here, if you go back and look at that fight, Bivol fights similar to Charlo. He does. And when he has done that against Canelo, you see where Canelo breaks down, where his style does not fit that type of style. He can't really work with that as well as he needs to. And I think we spoke on this before. Floyd employed that style against him. Bivol employed that style against him. They were both successful. Those were his losses.
Yeah.
So we're looking at Charlo rather, having the opportunity to either emulate those styles or not. If he does, he may have a chance to do so. I'm sure he's looking at all that and knowing that that is an opportunity. He's just trying to get Canelo on the end of some of that power.
Right. Well, look, I mean, I know that Charlo is super, super excited about this fight.
As he should be.
Yeah, he's super excited. Anybody in their right or left mind would be super excited to have an opportunity to fight Saul Canelo Alvarez, standing at a record of 59-2-2. Having this win against a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer anyway, is really a great opportunity for Charlo.
It helps his opportunity to get in the Hall of Fame also because he is undisputed. He is undisputed. There's no doubt about that. And before his sedate type attitude, he was one of the best trash talkers, and he was just, polarizing. We enjoyed the angry Charlo. We
Right.
enjoyed him, just the stuff talking Charlo. We love that, but he's not doing that this time. So it's different, but we have to see how he's going to work it out.
Right. And at the top of the program, you did mention that Charlo comes in a little bit bigger, and he does. I mean, when they stand next to each other, there's definitely a height differential there. But I'm just wondering if that height differential is kind of, the same. That's kind of what Canelo needs. He needs a little
Yes,
height in his
yeah,
opponent, right?
yes, because Canelo's style is I don't want to say punching up,
Yeah.
but that is what he does, and he's more comfortable.
Yeah.
When he can deliver in such a manner, and you could see the difference between when he fought people who are about his same height or whatever, and then the ones who are a little taller. He was able
Yeah.
to deliver his punches a little better and that type of thing. So for him, height doesn't really matter.
No, he some of his best punch selections are things like rear uppercut up the middle, a five to the body, left hook to the body, shovel punch to the body on the left side, check hook on the left side, sweeping hook on the left side, dropping the rear four to the body. Those are some of his best shots. So obviously landing those shots against a taller, more lankier fighter, if you will, makes it really great for him to exercise the punches that actually produce the best knockouts for him in his career. So I'm excited to see about it. I think Charlo is not an opponent to play with lightly. He's not. He's a very, very serious, skillful fighter, rough fighter. He will mix it up with you on the inside. He will trade with you on the outside. He'll sneak punches long range and find those spots to land shots as you come in. So he has a lot of things that he can do in the fight as well.
His defense to me is his weakest. Not
Yeah.
saying it's weak, but it's less than his offense. Put it like that. I'm
Right.
not saying he has a weak defense at all. I'm just saying it's the lesser of the two, and that is something that Canelo could possibly exploit, because when you attack, you leave yourself open to be attacked, and
Right.
he is definitely an attacker. So when you do that, you leave yourself available. Now,
Yeah.
the only fighter I know who can do that and get away with it very cleanly is Shakur, but we're not talking about him.
Yeah.
But
Not yet.
that
Anyway.
is, that is what Charlo may have to be mindful of, as Canelo is looking for him to attack so he can counter.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Derek James has, which is actually Jermell Charlo's trainer, has a lot of things in planned, in mind to deliver to a Mr. Saul Canelo Alvarez.
True.
You would need to have quite an arsenal to get in there come September 30th. And I'm excited. I know this is going to be, the undercard's going to be pretty stacked as well. It's going to feature a lot of really, really good fighters. There are former title holders on that card.
Yes.
It's going to be everything from 147 to 160. Woo, woo, woo. And again, folks, before we move on here, it is going to be on Showtime, pay-per-view, this coming Saturday, September 30th. Listen, do not miss that fight. Okay, Harold, so let's move right along here. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get ourselves over to Frank Martin. Tell me about what's happening with Frank Martin. I understand that he pulled out of the fight with Shakur Stevenson. What's that about?
Right now, the boxing world is shook up. Everyone is doing emergency video podcasts and
Yeah.
emergency articles, and it's just shaking up the world. Only because this is something that's unprecedented. It hasn't happened in this manner in such a while. As you know, Frank Martin did sign up to fight Stevenson, and everyone was happy about that.
Right.
At the ninth hour, he pulled out of the fight. Now, this is the particulars according to ESPN and Dan Rayfield. Contracts were signed. They were to be signed everyone was signed it, and everyone was ready to just get the final signatures. And he pulled out. Now,
Right.
Martin is forfeiting $1 million payday. I suspect, I don't know if this is true, but I don't know if he's ever made over 200 grand for a fight, or he may
Right.
not have ever made that much. I don't believe, but this is $1 million fight.
Right.
Now, what this effectively does is it kind of tarnishes him in the eyes of the boxing fans when they're saying you're scared. Now, he's not scared or anything
Yeah.
like that, but there's some other factors that we don't know about. But this is the ramification of doing what he did. When you win the Oscar as an actor,
Yeah.
when you do another film, even if that film is trash, they got to pay you for having that Oscar. They got to pay you that. So the movie may not do anything, but you're going to get your number because you have that Oscar. Once you make $1 million, win or lose, your next fights, they have to pay you in around that range, period. Because now you have graduated to that financial range, and that's where you are. He left that. He negated that opportunity. So now he's going to go back to the low 200s, hundreds, or whatever it was. I don't know what he got previously. But if he had to took this fight, win or lose, he would have to be paid around $1 million every time he fought for the rest of his career. Now he has to get back in a position where he can make that kind of money with someone who wants to fight him at that kind of number. We know Stevenson brings that kind of number for him. That was number one. Number two, the boxing fans is like, what's going on? They don't understand there's politics and this and that and financials, all that. All they know is
Right.
he pulled out at the last minute. He chickened out. Now, his name is Frank Martin, and the little scuttlebutt going around, I'm not trying to say anything negative, but it's kind of apropos because people have little names for different people. But what they're saying is he is now Frank Purdue, the chicken man. So that's kind of cute, I would think. But I think he can really turn that around by fighting someone quickly and going right back to Shakur because he is not the
Right.
chicken man, but that's what the world's going to look at. So he hasn't given any kind of explanation why he did that. But the two things he has lost as of now, the guaranteed payday at $1 million, the guaranteed paydays of around $1 million for his subsequent fights,
Yeah.
the way the boxing public is looking at him. So we have yet to find out exactly what happened, if Al Heyman was involved, if they didn't think it was feasible. We just don't know. But it went so far just to be cast aside.
Wow. This is, I'm shaking my head on this one because, we've been talking about Shakur Stevenson for, 6 months or more about who he's going to fight and the fact that he is one of the pound for pound best fighters out there. The problem is he doesn't get a chance to show it because nobody wants to fight him.
They're all pulling out, Mark.
Yeah. It's an awful situation for Shakur. It's not much better for Top Rank, right? I mean, because they need their fighter in the fight. They need to be able to put him out there so they can build him after all of the investment that they've spent. Shakur has only got 20 fights, right? And I don't mean knockouts. Like he's only 20 fights. He's got 10 knockouts in the 20 fights. And, that's a 50% knockout ratio. It's not bad. It's close to Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo is only 54%. So he can keep that rolling. He might even be able to lift that up as he grows into his body and gets stronger and stronger and more experienced in the ring. But the problem is he's not getting the fights. He can't get any fights. And the thing about this fight was supposed to take place at 135 pounds. Frank Martin is a southpaw, very crafty, very skillful southpaw. I was excited to see this fight because my thought was, Shakur really put himself in deep here, or his camp put him in pretty deep here. And what's that about, right? This is he's gonna really have to prove himself. We never know what's happening in the back. This was also going to be for the vacant WBC lightweight title, which was vacated by
Devin Haney, who moved up to 140 so he could fight Regis Prograis. But Shakur is hurt by this too because his unless his number is guaranteed, they're going to say we have to pay you less.
Yeah.
So he comes down as far as what he's supposed to be paid, unless it was a guarantee that he would. But if the contracts weren't signed, they can renegotiate everybody else.
But
So
was this a situation where Top Rank shot over the contract to the Bean camp, and they didn't like the terms, or were the terms agreed upon? Contract was sent for signature, and it just wasn't signed.
everything was agreed upon in stone. All you have to do is sign it. Whatever clause came up or whatever concern came up, it came
Right.
up at the very last minute, and then
Okay.
he said no. So if you're not going to sign the contract, you're going to voice that that doesn't
Right.
go well, and then you're going to hear about it a week ahead of time, or whatever. But when you are right there at the signing table, or however they're doing it, and then you pull out the very last minute and you don't even
Right.
cite exactly what it was, and we still don't know exactly what it was. That's just suspect to the fans,
Yeah.
But Mark, you and I know there's so much more in the background that we don't know that really can cause this type of thing to happen. But
Oh.
the people outside who are not privy or who don't choose to be privy, because some people say, yeah, I know how that stuff works, but I don't care about that. I'm a fan and I want this to happen. Those people are somewhat, surprised. So this is where we're at right now with him.
Man.
I don't know how it's going to work out. Now, the another fighter wants to go ahead and fight him. I believe his name is Sandoval. He's like number 5 down the
Oh
line
yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and he's this is his opportunity to really get himself in the limelight. I'll fight you where no one else was. How many people pulled out before Frank? 3 people pulled out of note. They pulled out.
Yeah.
So the fight may still go on or not. We just don't know, Mark.
Right. Well, the fight was scheduled for, I believe, in November, right? It was scheduled
Right.
for
And 2
November.
venues were lined up, one in New York and one was in Vegas. So we don't even know what venue pulled out, if they're going to have the venue, if the seating is if they still want to do it, if the other guy can even sell the tickets.
Oh man.
All of that's just all up in the air.
Sloppy, everybody. Sloppy, you guys. Come on, Top Rank and PBC and all you guys got to get this thing together so we can make this fight. Shakur needs this fight. And, Connor Benn needs this fight too. Or I'm sorry, not Connor Benn. Frank Martin needs this fight too. If he doesn't
This was an opportunity to thrust himself in the space.
Yeah.
Even if he lost, it's kind of like if you lose to Floyd, you get a pass.
Yeah.
If you lose to Shakur, he will be one of the greatest fighters of all time, just because his skill set is so sublime. He hasn't even gotten into what he can really do. So you lose to him early in your career, and in his career, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can take that loss and still be a viable candidate to the promoters, the networks, and the fans. But he's just sidestepping that for whatever reason. I'm not criticizing, but it's happening. It's happened.
Yeah, no. And it's just, Shakur Stevenson, if you're listening, this is not the first time a fighter is avoided like the plague. You've spent your life training to be an amazing fighter. You've developed the skills of an amazing fighter. You have the pedigree of an amazing fighter. You've been trained to be an amazing fighter. And so because of that, people are going to avoid you. They are going to have to eventually fight you. Okay? Because eventually, there you are. They're going to have to come through you. So, good luck with it. All I'm saying is that we really want to see Shakur up on the big stage. Shakur hails from Newark, New Jersey. Shout out Newark, New Jersey. And shout out Shakur Stevenson. More to come on that saga. There's going to be a lot more coming down the pike in the next day or two about that.
Yes.
And so stay tuned for that. If you are listening in, thank you for being with us. If you are on YouTube, we appreciate that. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe along with the notifications down below, right down there.
Down there.
Yeah, down there. And if you're following us on Facebook, share it. Hit the like button, share it with your friends. I'm sure there's tons of people out there that would enjoy the program, and we would appreciate your kindness.
Please.
Yeah, if you're watching or you're not watching, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get those podcasts. Thank you. And just leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. And by the way, YouTubers and Facebookers, you guys can actually leave your comments. We just opened up the comment line. So if you want to get in there and drop a comment, we didn't schedule this broadcast, so it's just anybody out there who's floating around. And you also can put your comments in the comment box after the broadcast has been completed. So whatever it is, we love your comments. And so anyway, let's move on right here, okay? Let's get into this Errol Spence and Terence Crawford rematch. Apparently, Errol Spence has exercised the rematch clause. Is that correct, Harold?
Yes, according to the people out there who are into the boxing world, he did in fact invoke the rematch.
Okay.
So that being the case, it ties Bud up because Bud wanted to take the winner of Canelo and Charlo, but now he's obligated per contract to go ahead and rematch with Spence. Now, Spence's mindset is of get back. He's not concerned about the money. He's not concerned about anything else. I know as myself, as me, if I get beat up in the street, I tell him we're gonna fight again tomorrow.
Right.
And then if he beats me again, we're gonna fight again tomorrow.
Right.
And if he beats me again, we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight every day until I'm victorious. And if he wants to fight again, we're gonna fight again. Because it's about the get back. Y'all take the whooping, but I'm gonna try to get you the next day. And if I can't get you the next day, I'm gonna try to get you the next day. You gotta whoop me every day. One day you won't.
Yeah.
So that is Spence's attitude.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about anything. He's got to get that get back, and he wants to do that. Now, even if you get the get back and you lose, Wilder did that type of thing. Mentally, emotionally, you understood that fighter has a better skill set than you.
Yeah.
But you have to prove to yourself that you gave it your best shot the second time. You still didn't prevail, but in your heart and in your mind, you did the best you could, and you can accept that and move forward with your life. So he is about the get back. Now, people are saying, well, you're going to get beat the worse because you may have problems with the weight, and now you come in better, but so will Bud. Bud will be stronger, because he doesn't have to come with the weight. Now, the gloves are going to be larger. The gloves are going to be larger gloves. So I don't know how that it's going from 8 to 10 ounce gloves. So we have to see if, the speed will be the same because the gloves are larger. We have to see if the damage will be the same because the gloves are larger. And the men themselves will be larger and more compact because of the weight. So that's what it's about. Now, it's not even for a title because Bud's not fighting at 47. It's going to be 54. So it'll be a non-title fight. Maybe some of the sanction bodies will put together some silver belts or some anniversary belts or some kind of belt so they can have a optic of belts being on the line, because the casual fan doesn't really know about the real all the belts being there, but they know the fight's going to come off, and you got to have some kind of hardware for the fans to recognize.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I mean, there's something to what you just said. Something very, very important that I want the listeners to really hear in what you said, which is that, Spence must believe that he can win this fight down at 154. What do you think he thinks? You think he's thinking, well, I can be stronger there? Or what is it that's happening that makes him think that he can do a better job against Terence Crawford at 154?
Possibly, just my thought, he's thinking that his punch resistance will be a lot better.
Yeah.
Because as you know, he takes punches to deliver. He just wears you down. You hit him with the clean work, he's still there. You hit him again with clean work, he's still there. He's still coming. He's going to just overwhelm you just overwhelm you like a tsunami, just coming, never stopping. He didn't have the punch resistance, possibly. I'm not making excuses. I don't know. But when he got hit, it affected him every time.
Right.
Maybe at 54, when he gets hit with some of those type of punches, he can continue his mode of operation. He's not going to come in there bump boxing or anything else or counter punching. He's going to do what he does, but he feels like at this weight, my opinion, he'll have greater punch resistance, and he can do what he usually does and overwhelm Bud with the frequency of his work.
Yeah, I just think, Harold, I get all of that. And I think that 154 only makes Terence Crawford faster. It only makes him faster to do what he did. I don't really see, as a coach, if I've got Errol Spence, if that's my fighter, and I just watched him, lose the way he lost, he's going in now with a new trainer too, I believe.
Yes, he is.
And he's facing the guy that just beat him at a higher weight. Fighting at 154 seems to me to be like a reckless kind of situation for Errol Spence. And maybe, do you think it's a money grab, or do you think it's legitimate that he believes that he can win this fight?
Well, as I said before, your ego is such a tremendous motivator in life, and it sometimes denies logic.
Right.
And when it does that, you're acting on your emotions, and you may or may not be looking at a different strategy. Of course they are. Of course they're thinking
Right.
this or that and the other, but the basis of the rematch clause is to get that get back. I got to get that get back. No matter what I do, I've got to have the opportunity to do that. It
Yeah.
translates into another payday. It translates into opportunities for him to stay at 54, that type of thing. Once again, he may get a pass because he's losing to a very great fighter, and he himself had many years of being, the greatest fighter out there at that weight class. We just have to wait and see.
Well, see, the thing is I don't subscribe to this idea that Errol Spence just had a bad night and lost to a better fighter that night. I don't really subscribe to that. I did not like the way Errol Spence looked in the last fight. I didn't like the way he looked at the end of the last fight. I was very, very concerned for Errol Spence as a trainer, right? And as someone who knows the damage that is inflicted in a professional prize fight like that one, I am just a little bit worried about it, because I don't see that the fight is going to be any different at 154. I think that you've got a situation where, he's just as strong. And he's fast. He's faster. The punches are going to come in faster. Now,
We got 10-ounce gloves now.
now I understand the 10-ounce gloves. So what is that? I mean, 10-ounce hurts just as much as 8-ounce gloves.
But the initial, from what I understand, the initial delivery is going to be somewhat weighted, if you will. And as the fight goes along, the water and all that starts to condense into the gloves, and they're heavier as you go along. So if you're used to throwing lighter gloves, maybe that'll make a factor. But I don't know. I'm not a fighter. I haven't been in there to throw. I haven't used 8-ounce gloves and go with 10-ounce gloves, so I don't really know how that feels. I don't know what it's like when condensation, the water gets in. I just don't know. But I just believe, from my basic understanding, that it should be a little harder to throw heavier gloves.
Listen,
as you go along.
Listen, that's why I said what I said in the previous comment, Harold, because Errol Spence did not look good. I don't know what is causing him to appear to have very, very poor reflexes. His equilibrium wasn't right. His kinesthetic awareness wasn't good. Like, he just wasn't able to get where he needed to get, and he was getting touched. And when he was getting touched, it was hurting him. You could see that he was hurt. So
Punch
I don't,
resistance.
yeah, man, the punch resistance just isn't there. I don't know if it was the car accident. We've been bringing these things up and speculating about what it is. But here's my concern. We as a boxing community also, like the number one thing as a coach, for me as a coach, my number one responsibility is to make sure that I keep my fighters safe at all times. That is the most important job that we have as a coach, is to keep our fighters safe. Now that can be through tactics, it could be through preparation, but most importantly, it's by keeping an eye on our fighter and knowing when, enough is enough, right? So, and that's a hard call to make, but that's our job to make. There's no emotion attached to that. It's like, hey, this towel's going in there because you just took too many blows. That's it. And I'm putting it out there because I'm concerned about Errol Spence, and I'm putting it out there because I know that he dares to be great. I get all of that. He dares to be great. He is great. He's an amazing fighter. But I'm legitimately concerned about the damage that he
His
took in the
health?
last fight and his health.
Really? Well,
Is
I don't
it
think any of
worth
those
it?
things are a factor. I don't think any of those things are a factor.
Yeah.
He was a young man when that happened. He was able to bounce back.
Yeah.
I believe he has good genes. I believe all of that, the car accident, the eye injury, and all that. For me, I don't believe that's a factor. What I possibly can see is maybe is really draining him to do 147. And
Right.
Mark, as you know, that lowers your resistance to everything because your body is not where it needs to be. He's an older gentleman now. I mean, not saying he's old, but
Yeah.
his body doesn't need to be melted down to 147. It's just
Right.
it may not be what he needs to be at. So as I said earlier, possibly his punch resistance goes up. He'll feel better in this training camp. He'll be more comfortable, and he'll look out for some of that work that he got that put him down.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll change some things so he won't be as hit. He's still going to get hit, but maybe he has the opportunity to really overwhelm. But as I said before, I believe he absolutely needs this mentally. Even if he loses again, he needs to know that he did a good job and he tried his best to get back, and he just was beaten by a better fighter. And as he said, he saw the three kings of the Mayweather fights and the Hagler fights and all those kind of fights. Those guys went back and forth, beating and losing and winning with each other, back and forth and back and forth. He wants to be in that. So for him, the loss is just a loss, and he has to kind of rebound as he saw his heroes do in the past.
Yeah. No, I get it, but I tell you, I want to go on record by saying I'm very concerned about his, the neurological
As you
health.
should. As
And
you should.
I don't see any reason for him to go. I mean, other than the money is very real. The money is so real and so good that I get it. I get the allure. It's life-changing money for sure, but I just, I'm not sure that it warrants losing a man's life for it. So for me, that's where I stand.
That's dire right there.
Well, no, I mean, listen, man, you can lose your life in the boxing ring anytime. I've seen guys, listen, people do not, if you're a coach and you've worked with professional fighters, I've worked with a lot of professional fighters, and make no bones about it. Stepping into that ring, you are putting your life at risk every time. And if you think as a fighter that you're not, you really need to think about what you're doing, because it is very, very serious. You have to be prepared. This is a sport of gladiators. It's a sport. It's a blood sport. It's a sport. You fight, the job is to take the other person out. And there have been many, many times where fighters have been taken out to the point where they've been hurt severely, damaged eternally, and not made it out of the ring at all. So I say that because we have an obligation to be able to see what, like, I know what I'm looking at. because I've looked at it so many times and I've seen it so many times, and it is not uncommon for us to simply say, I will not allow you to spar anymore. You are done. Simple. Because your life, I don't even have to give you the because. I'm telling you, it's over for you. And our job as coaches is to help the fighter transition into other aspects of life that don't involve being in the ring. And I think it's important for fighters to know when that is. And so maybe it's not this fight, but I'm concerned. That's all I'm saying. And that what I was talking about is really a lesson. And for those that are listening into our podcast, Harold, that are really, they tune in all the time. They're in boxing. We do not play boxing. As a trainer, if you come to my gym, you come to the, anywhere I'm training, you know what we're talking about. We are not playing boxing. And, on a collegiate level, or even as a young amateur, it's fun. There's lots of lessons, everything is super, super regulated. But once you take the headgear off and you take those gloves and
smaller
you make
gloves,
8-ounce gloves is literally like getting hit with a bare fist. Trust me. Trust me when I tell you, it is those knuckles hurt, babe. So anyway, that's that. Let's move it right along to a much brighter note, which is basically
this is like,
Conor Benn, outstanding performance. What's up with that?
Man, Conor Benn was trained by Roy Jones.
Yeah.
And he attempted to really emulate Roy Jones, and he respected Roy Jones, and he tried so hard. And if you looked at some of his fights when he was being trained by Roy Jones, he actually had some of the same footwork, the movement, all of that, hands down, that type of thing. But that really wasn't what he could really do. And he calls, he looked good, but he did lose his last fight via knockout. Not necessarily because of the Roy Jones style, but he was open for it and he was hit.
Yeah.
So, as you know, he went ahead and employed Bomack, Crawford's trainer, to help him. Now, Bomack was only with him about maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but it was more of a mind reset for Conor Benn to be able to understand that he has a certain skill set. There's no need for him to emulate anyone else. Just do what you do, and take the mindset that is around the Bomack Crawford type area in the training. So all of that just really took his mind to another level where he's going to be more productive. Now, in the fight, it actually showed up. The first rounds or so, he was very cautious because he didn't want to get hit again like that.
Right.
But after the 5th round, when he realized that he can be himself, there's no need for him to emulate or use any other techniques other than the basics that he knows, he went on a tear and he dominated and he knocked his opponent out. For him, it just put him back to where he was. Everyone has a little slip up or a football, or you had the wrong training procedure or game plan, and you can get clipped. He got clipped, but this looks like he was never clipped. It looks like that he has a game plan and a mindset going forward that's going to do nothing but offer him success.
Wow. Yeah. Well, listen, congratulations to Conor Benn for an outstanding performance. And we look forward to seeing a lot more of this young man. And we'll probably end up featuring him on our program and really breaking down, all his skill sets. And, once we get a little bit more of an opportunity to see this guy, we'll be breaking all that down. I mean, Harold, let me ask you something. You had some news on Bomack too, right?
Yes. Bomack, the trainer, had a weapon that he brought with him from America to the UK for protection. He stated that last time he was there, someone tried to rob him of his wallet. I don't
Oh
know
boy.
if he was robbed or it was attempted robbery. He didn't say, but he said, "On my return, I'll be ready." Now, what's ironic about this is he had the weapon and the ammunition in America, and it got by the TSA there.
What?
He got to UK, and when he arrived there, it got through there. But on his exit from UK, that's when it was found. So in my mind, TSA
What?
here in America may have dropped the ball. The TSA, I don't know what's called there, the entity there, they didn't catch it only upon its exit. What is
Wow.
ironic is the cops in UK don't carry guns, so they're very strict on guns there. He is now held in the UK for 45 days until his arraignment. So
Oh
he's there
boy.
in custody there, eating their food, sleeping there, and dealing with it. Now he's a multimillionaire, but his money doesn't translate for him to have opportunity. They don't care about your money. You have to be detained until your court date comes up.
Right.
But I'm thinking that there's other people culpable. There's other people who are responsible for this. As in, why was he stopped in America first? So he wouldn't even get on the plane to get over here, and Conor Benn would have to fight without him. That type of thing. And why, when he got into the country, they didn't catch it, but on
Yeah.
his way out, they caught it. So there is some blame to be spread around here. He obviously carried that gun on several occasions on in his travels. So he has a permit and this,
Yeah.
that, and the other. I believe he just didn't do it on a whim.
Wow.
So he understands the situation. So we have to
Well,
see how the courts are going to there are going to deal with it.
couple of things about this. It was possession in England, right? Because he had the gun was discovered in England, right? And it was a gun,
On
right?
his exit, Mark, on his exit, not his entry.
Yeah, but it was in England, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I just
UK.
want to make sure because the listeners, I want to make sure they understand what happened here. The other thing is that it was at the Manchester airport, and Harold, something to think about. It's very possible that he had a permit from where was he coming from? Where did he? Do you know where he flew out of?
I can't say. I know, he's stationed with Bud in Nebraska, but I believe maybe he flew out New York, or I don't know. I
Okay.
can't say.
So, because that's very material to the conversation because I'm not sure where he flew out of, but here's why I'm saying that or why I'm asking the question. Because if he flew out of Nebraska, maybe their gun laws are such that he can travel. There's open carry, or perhaps there's a gun law that says you can. You know what I mean? Like you can conceal carry, and then if that's the case, he conceal carry, took it on the plane. The plane goes up in the air. That's nowhere space, but he entered the airport that allowed that to be. I don't really know. All I'm saying is that, and then he gets there. He goes about his business. He comes back to the airport to go home, and they pinch him there, right? So, I mean, it's possible that something like that occurred because I don't see how he gets through the airport TSA. I just don't
Yes,
see how that happens, unless he. I don't. I don't think he would have smuggled the gun. Is what I'm saying. I think he legitimately thought it. I'm sure there was a passage for him to take that gun to England, and he thought he was good, but he wasn't. And this has happened a lot of times, even in the U.S., where, I know Newark, New Jersey, Newark Airport is notorious for that. You can have a concealed carry, blah, blah, blah. You go to the airport, you got, your magazine is inside. There's all kinds of laws, and they get you, and then oh man,
yeah,
it's really messy, man. They got to clean up those gun
can be.
laws over here too, but then over there as well. I mean, gosh, I feel bad for him.
So he's sitting there, but his we go back to he really did an excellent job with Ben. I mean, he turned him around.
Yeah.
He put him in a situation where the world is noticing him. Ben has nothing but big fights coming forward, and it's just a really, really great opportunity for Ben to really get splashed on the eyes of the boxing public with
Yeah.
this win. So, and Bomack has so much to do with that. They were saying during the fight that the instructions from Bomack were so clear. His voice was above the crowd and everyone, and it was very distinctive. And
Yeah.
what he was telling Ben to do was very clear, and Ben was performing at the level of his word. So he was just so instrumental in the way Ben fought. It was clear that Ben respected and understood and actually executed everything that Bomack was saying. So
Yeah.
he is really in a good situation with Bomack.
Yeah. Well, Harold, I just wanted to also we're rounding out an hour. We're just about done with our broadcast, and I wanted to take a moment to send my condolences to the family and friends and fellow boxers of Coach Michael Stafford, who just recently passed away.
Yes.
And you know, I don't know much about how he passed away. But I've heard this news has reverberated around the inside boxing world. Coach Stafford was a beloved coach, an amazing coach that took tons of fighters, tons of them, from nothing to being world champions. He also worked with the youth, with the amateur program, took fighters to the Olympics, et cetera, et cetera. You know, this is a man that dedicated his life to boxing and to the youth and to helping people see a better way. And he will be sorely missed. And
Yes, he will.
I just wanted to shout out the family and send my condolences out to Adrian Broner and to his whole family and the fighters that he's worked with, including Adrian Broner. And you know, the list is enormous. But and with that being said, Harold, I think we're just about out of time for this broadcast. So I want to thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to thank the listeners for tuning in and being with us on the Boxing Breakdown. And we will see you on the next episode of the Boxing Breakdown. So peace and love.
Peace and love.
That's right. Hit the like and subscribe and all that good stuff.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Fight fans, join host Mark Roxy and special guests as they break down all aspects of the boxing world, including news, business, management, training, promotions, fan reactions, upcoming events, matchups, future boxing stars, title fights, state of the boxing world, and all the stuff you don't see when you watch boxing. This podcast is released each week on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live streamed on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook Live. It's the Boxing Breakdown, hosted by Mark Roxy.
Peace and love.